Okay, so we are on our fourth installment on linear equations, and this one we're going to talk about x and y intercepts. And guys, more than probably changing from slope-intercept to standard or standard to slope-intercept form, the most important thing is being able to find your x and y intercepts. Slope, x, y intercepts. Those are the three main things in any form that I give them to you. And so we do need to know what the definition of x and y intercepts are. So on your graph, the point at which the graph intersects the x-axis is your x-intercept. And again, I wanted to point out it says the point at which. It does not say the number, it says the point. Likewise, the point where the graph intersects the y-axis is called the y-intercept. So we're going to identify the x and the y-intercepts on the graph. And so when I come to my x-intercept, again, this is my x-axis, my x-intercept is this point, and so that would be the point 30. So my x-intercept is 30. And guys, I expect it to be written as a point. If you give me x equals 3, I will count it wrong. Your y-intercept, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. That didn't copy very well. 1, 2, 3. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, my eyeballs sometimes go crazy on tracking. So that would be 0, 4. Okay? So when you're looking at this, one of the things that I want you to remember for all times in your x-intercept, and I will ask you this all year long, when I say what is true about the x-intercept, your answer should be that y is equal to 0. And when I ask you what is true about the y-intercept, your answer to me all the time will be that x equals 0. Those two things are super important. And again, we're going to use those all year long. So the next thing is, what else do we call the x-intercept? And as we continue on, especially when we get into polynomials, this is really going to play a part. You're going to see all these different words used. But the x-intercept actually has multiple words that we call it. We call it the roots. We call it the zeros. We also call it the solution. So sometimes it'll just say, it'll give you an equation and it'll say, what is the solution to this? Well, that's meaning the x-intercept. Or what are the zeros? Again, x-intercept is what it's referring to. You guys have got to know those vocabulary words right there. Okay, that the x-intercept is referred to as the roots, the zero, and the solutions. Okay, so how do we actually find the x-intercepts algebraically? And so the rules are, to find the x-intercept, again, we're going to set that y equal to 0, which is what I just told you up here. And then you solve it for x. Okay, to find your y-intercept, just as I told you earlier, you're going to let your x equal 0, and then you solve for y. So we're going to look at an example here. So if I have y equals negative 2x plus 5, and I want to find my x-intercept, I'm going to let y be 0, and now I have an equation to solve. So I would minus your 5. So negative 5 equals a negative 2x. So that means that x is going to equal 5 halves. I'm running out of room, so I'll shortcut it there. And so your x-intercept would be the point 5 halves, 0. So if I'm doing it for the y-intercept, I'm going to let x equal 0. Okay, and y equals 5. And so my y-intercept would be 5, 0. Now, I do realize 100% that if you know that that equation is in slope-intercept form, that it is in the y equals mx plus b form, that your 5 is your y-intercept. And so, no, I would not expect you to put the 0 in and solve. I would hope that you could just tell me it was 5, 0. Okay? So that is how you're going to find your x and your y-intercept. Now, for the most part, when I have you do x and y intercepts, what I have you do is, if it is in standard form, we graph using intercepts, okay? So standard form, we're going to use intercepts to graph, in which case you'll do exactly what I just said. But if it is in slope-intercept form, then I expect you to just use your y-intercept and your slope to graph. So I'm not going to ask you to take slope-intercept form and find your intercepts. I don't think that that's necessary. But I do know that this worksheet does. So when you're looking at, let's say, number 1 here, I will be okay with you telling me the slope is 5 and the y-intercept is 0, -1. And so when you then go to graph, of course, we always start at our y-intercept, -1. We have a slope of 5. 1, 2, again, my tracking is off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I'm off, it's just because I cannot see these lines. And then draw your line. Please use a straight line or a straight ruler when you're doing this, not a straight line. Make a straight line, use a ruler. And I can't, because I don't have rulers on here to use to access, so mine's not going to be perfect. Also, always put a arrow on the end. So things you need to remember, again, always use straight line, okay, tool, okay, and then 2 arrows. Okay. Okay. What else was I? There seems like there was something else I was going to tell you. So if this was your problem and you needed to know the x-intercept, of course, you could go back in and find it. But in terms of just graphing, that's all I'm going to ask you to do. Okay? So number 2, in the same way, all I want you to tell me is the slope is a -6/5. The y-intercept is going to be 0, 2. And again, I'm going to graph 0, 2. And then I have a slope of a -6/5. Now remember, if you have a -6/5, okay, then you could do -6/5, which would mean down 6, right 5, because that's positive. Or you could do 6, -5, which means up 6, down, whoops, how about left, sorry, left 5, okay? Because again, remember, slope is rise over run, okay? So that means it's up or down over right or left. Okay, so in this case, I'm doing a -6/5, so I'm going to go down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, and there is my line. Now, one other thing to add to it is this is a negative slope, so we know that our graph should be going down left to right. So double check it and make sure. I don't know how many kids will be graphing a negative slope, but their line is positive. It's going up, and that's not possible. Okay, let's see. So now I'm going to skip 3 because it's about the same thing, and I'm going to go to 4. So now 4 is in standard form. So if it is in standard form, again, I want you to find me the x and the y-intercepts. So we're first going to find the x-intercept. And to do that, we let y equal 0, just the opposite. So 4 x minus y equals 8. We're letting y be 0. And then we're going to solve it, okay? Okay, so my answer here would be 2, 0. My y-intercept, I'm going to let x equal 0. And I personally think that this here piece of it is just something you should get in the habit of writing every time. Anytime you write y-intercept, put x equals 0. So I'm going to come over again into my equation and put 0. And so that becomes, I'm writing every step I know in there, which is redundant for some of you guys, but for others it won't be. So there's my answer. And then my point would be 0, negative 8. Okay, so there's my two answers. So now I'm going to go to my graph, and I'm going to graph. I'm going to graph 2, 0, and I'm going to graph 0, negative 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there we go, barely on there. Graph, points, okay? Now, one of the things that I'll talk about when we get into class is how I don't expect on there you to show all that work, and I'll definitely simplify it down in class for some of you. Some of you need all of that work, and so that I may require. I'm going to run through one more for you. X-intercept, y equals 0, negative 5x minus 4, y equals a negative 24. Again, I'm going to do this one a little shorter for you because since my y is 0, okay, I am going to use a marker here, then this is eliminated out, okay? So if you want to shortcut it, there's your shortcut, and then I would need to divide both sides by a negative 5, and in this case, y would be 24 over 5. So my answer would be, oh, sorry, x is, my bad. So x is 24 over 5, 0. And since you're graphing it, you might want it in mixed form. So that would be 4 4/5, 0. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing for my y-intercept. I'm going to let x equal 0. So in this case, again, when I let x be 0, what's going to happen is this is eliminated out. And so that's all I have left. I'm going to divide by negative 4, and y equals 6. So my answer here would be 0, 6. Okay? Now, again, I shortcutted it a lot on that, did not put all the steps. And some of you are going to say, I don't understand what you just did, and that's fine. Then you'll need to do it like number 4 until you get comfortable with, and if you don't ever get comfortable with it, you can always draw yours as in 4. But I do know some of you guys, maybe some of you, especially in honors, that makes sense to you, then definitely shortcut the work. So I'm going to go ahead and graph. I've got 0, 6, I think that's 6, and 4 4/5. So make sure you just get ballparkish. 4/5 should be closer to, I think I missed that with 1. My eyesight, there we go. And again, draw your graph. Okay? So that is graphing using intercepts. And again, this is a concept that we use a lot throughout the year, so be sure you do have a good understanding of this.